All right, welcome to the Jared Williams Show. It's been a while since we podcasted, but we got a special guest on today. Joel's busy out washing because, as some of you may know, we started a pressure washing company and we lost my podcast guest. So today we got Travis with High Tide Plumbing on here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jared. I feel like I got a big shoes to fill with Joel being out. But we're going to make the best of it. Happy to be here, man.
So if you want to be like Joel, you just got to say a bunch of dumb jokes.
Well, shouldn't be too hard for me.
Right on.
Pressure's off now. I thought this was going to be high stakes, but that's all I got to do.
No, dude. Everything I do has to be chill because I'm a chill person.
For sure.
So that's how we roll. Dude, so this podcast, I really want to hear your story.
Okay.
Is probably the most important part.
Okay.
And then I want to talk to you about the struggles and the wins and
floating hair
and the good stuff. Yeah, there's floaties. Hopefully our lights are good. And I think your story is so relatable. And what I don't want this to be is, man, Jared's so cool. He taught me all this stuff. His program's so awesome.
Okay.
And the reason I don't want that to be that is because all I did was, like, you bought some information from me. And that's it. I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
You grew your plumbing business. You took that information and you implemented it and you applied it and you ran with it.
For sure.
And it was awesome. And
It's been awesome.
Well, the crazy part is that, 99% of the people who get into my course, by the way, Travis got into my course. I have a course. You guys can go to wealthyplumber.com. No, actually it's school.com/wealthyplumber/about. It's only $99 a month now. You can't go wrong.
And if you want to do it, shoot me a personal message. I'll send you a link, and I'll make sure that you get walked all the way through the process.
Bam. Go find Travis High Tide Plumbing on Facebook. You could probably message him.
Yep.
But the thing is, so you got the information.
Yep.
And all the information I gave you was what I did at my plumbing business, basically.
Yep.
So I just outlined it in a series of videos and gave you the resources that we use at my business. And you took that information and you ran with it. And 99% of the people who get the information, they do absolutely nothing with it.
Yeah.
And you're one of the rare few, you're the 1% that actually took it and did the stuff. And it's cool. I just met your wife, nice lady. I think
That's my driver.
your driver,
She drives me, man.
she drives you hard.
Yes.
That's funny. So I see her, you post on Facebook. Mm-hmm. We're friends on Facebook, and I see you post stuff, and then I see your wife post, thanks for stepping up. To me, that's one of the coolest comments you could ever get.
For sure.
Because I think the world needs more men to step up and go work hard.
That's right.
Set an example for their
Make
kids.
things happen.
Yeah, and then to have a wife that sees that and respects that and appreciates that.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
And what's even cooler is the culture that we've created at High Tide.
Yeah.
They're the same way.
Are they?
I mean, everyone is this. We're aligned, man.
That's so cool.
It is.
I love that.
It really is.
You should feel lucky that you have that.
I am.
Yep. Because there's one thing I didn't do well with my plumbing business. That was we created a culture of entitlement instead of a culture of showing up and working hard and getting results and providing for your family.
Well, that's long term, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
That's the hard part, is getting there. And that's what I tell my guys. You can get to the top.
Yeah.
That's easy. You can get to the top. You can work as hard as you need to. You can get there.
Yep.
But staying there, whenever nobody's in front of you anymore.
Yep.
And you got to continue to run as fast as you can
and
do the best you can. That's the hard part.
Yeah.
It's hard to stay at the top.
Heck yeah. So let's start with your story.
Okay. So I feel blessed, man, because in my past, it's like everything's happened so perfectly for a reason. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Growing up, I had a good life at home. I had everything that I needed.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of things that I wanted that I didn't get, but I had everything that I needed. And one thing that my dad always showed me is to get up and go to work every day, so he instilled that work ethic in me. I kind of got my dreamer side from my mom. She's the one that likes to dream and try new things and do new things. My dad, he's more of the structured, you know what I mean? create a routine, go to work every day, provide for the family. So hats off to him for that, and hats off to my mom for dreaming, because without the mixture of those two, I feel like you need both sides in order to have a good balance. So that was growing up. Once I graduated, I actually started plumbing with my stepfather in the 7th grade, summer after 7th grade. And I can remember the first sewer line that I went on.
How old are you in 7th grade?
13.
13.
Yeah.
Okay. 13 for sewer line.
Yep. First sewer line. And I remember the tie-in was super deep. And so I don't know how technical you want to get with plumbing here, but I'm going to tell this quick little plumbing story.
Whatever, go for it.
So the sewer line was about 4.5, 5 foot deep where our tie-in was at the tap, okay? And so he told me, dig this ditch at the depth that it comes out of the house, and then once you get down there to the tie-in, we'll roll it down. Well, it was my first job I've ever been on. Well, he dropped me off with a shovel, dig the ditch from here to there. So I dug the tie-in up and then dug the entire ditch 4.5 foot deep. So I dug way more than I actually needed to. And I was like, man, this sucks. You know what I mean? But I was young. I was 13 years old. I had a couple more years coming up before I wanted to buy my first truck. And I always liked to work and have money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I stuck with it. So after 7th, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, I worked all those summers with him and continued to learn the trade. And when I graduated high school, I started college. I was going to be a construction engineer. And, I was going to do 2 years at the local community college. And then I was going to go do 2 years at a major university. And I was going to build these big skyscrapers along the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and had it figured out. You know what I mean? So started college. I did 1 full year, 8 total classes. I was going to school at night from 6 to 10 after plumbing all day. And I failed 50% of my classes. And it just wasn't for me. It wasn't what I wanted to do. It's just what I felt like society expected me to do and my family expected me to do. And it was either a trade, military, or college, And I can remember my parents telling me riding down the road, seeing somebody working in a ditch, you don't want to do that your whole life. You need to go to school.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah, or you need to join the military. Well, I knew I didn't want to join the military.
Yep.
It just didn't seem like it was for me. And so I'd been told my whole life I didn't need to be down there working like that. You know what I mean? So college seemed like my only option.
Yep.
Well, in July of 2008 is when I met my wife, Melissa. And she had just graduated from LSU with a 4-year degree in business marketing. And she had like 3 jobs at the time, hustling, selling Mary Kay, working for an event planner, plus a full-time job. So she was hustling, but just graduated from school. Now she had the student loans to pay off, and so it was tight for her. College sucked for me, so I was like, I'm out of here. So I left from Mississippi, and I moved to Baton Rouge. And I moved over there with $500, my pickup truck, and what I could fit in my truck.
Nice.
Basically what was in my room at my mom's house.
Nice.
And so moved in with her. We had only been dating for 6 months. Everybody told us we were crazy, I shouldn't do that. My parents had to talk with her about make sure he gets back in college and all this, and she was like, well, he's a grown man. He's going to do what he wants to do.
Yeah.
And so I moved over there, man, and it's funny because Brian Burton, I heard him for the first time yesterday on the Zoom call.
Yeah.
And when he was telling his story, it was interesting because it relates a lot to mine.
Yeah.
Whenever he moved from Lancaster, Pennsylvania to Las Vegas, he planned a route before he got there of these places he was going to hit.
Yep.
And that was before cell phones had GPS and all that. You had the Garmin in the windshield, know. And so I didn't have a Garmin, so I had to plan my route out on a notepad. And so I had a route. Before I moved from Biloxi over to Baton Rouge, the first day that I moved over there, I said, these are the places that I'm going to hit. And so I went and found me a plumbing job. The first place that I went to, filled out an application, did a quick little interview. They said they were going to talk to the boss or whatever.
Yep.
They actually called me back the next day, but I'd found a job the first day I was over there.
Yep.
And that was for a company doing a lot of new construction, track homes, which was what I was familiar with, new construction. And so I was 19 years old at that time. So I started running with it, man. That place closed down 6 months after I moved over there. So now I just moved over here 6 months ago, and now I don't have a job. Crap, this isn't working out for me. Maybe I should have went back to college. And so I got laid off. He laid off the entire company the day after we came back from Christmas break. the entire company. And he said, I want y'all to go, you can apply for unemployment if you want to. If any work comes in, I'll sub it out to you and, pay you cash or whatever. And I was like, dude, I'm 19 years old. There's no way I'm applying for unemployment. No way. You know, I'm way better than that at this age because I got the full potential to go out there and make it happen. That's not a resource for me. And so I left there. I drove out of that shop at 7 o'clock that morning, and I went to another place in town that I seen was doing big things and had a nice culture, and that was LaFleur's Plumbing. And shout out to Wayne LaFleur. He was a good guy. I learned a lot over there, and I worked there for 3.5 years. And so at 23 years old, I was roughing in, topping out, trimming out. It didn't matter. You put me on it, I'm going to be able to do it. So,
and how long I guess you've been plumbing since you were 13, technically.
Yeah. So I got my license at 20. I got my license.
Gotcha.
At 20 years old. And I'm sorry, 22 years old. In 2010, I got my license. And so I started running a truck. I got my license while I was at LaFleur's Plumbing. And I started running a truck there, and we would run 2 or 3 helpers with us, go knock out 4 or 5 rough ends in a day, you know what I mean? And there wasn't many people there that could rough in, so I was like one of the 3, and so that's pretty much what I did every day. And, man, I just got burnt out, dude. I just got severely burnt out, and when I went to Mr. Wayne, I said, man, you're doing a great thing here. It's just not for me anymore. I have to make a change. I had hit my first ceiling in my career.
Yeah.
And
very quick.
Very quick. Yeah, very quick.
Yeah.
And so I had reached out to another big company in town, B&D Plumbing. They've been in business now for about 50 years, and they have an electrical HVAC department also. And their plumbing is split up between service department and new construction. And they're a pretty large operation, man. And I actually went over there for $6 less an hour. And because of the opportunity for advancement and to learn new things. And, they talked a big game when I went and sat in front of them.
Yeah.
And so I went, I took the chance. And, man, it was one of the best. It was the best move I had made for myself up to that point, for sure.
Yeah.
Jimmy Lockwood, my manager over there, was a great guy. I mean, he was like my father figure over there in Baton Rouge, because I didn't have any family in Baton Rouge. And the culture was great over there. And Jimmy decided to take a chance on me. And he pulled me out of the truck and put me in the office and started teaching me how to estimate these massive projects and how to manage them and manage people. And he was just a great role model naturally. He didn't have to try to be a good role model. He just was. He showed up every day. He was early. He was the first one there, the last one to leave, just that good old school just leader, man. And it seemed like he always has the right answers to every question you ask him. And, so I learned a lot over there at B&D Plumbing. Learned a lot about plumbing, the business side of plumbing, the numbers, but mostly about leadership. That was the first place I ever got put in as a manager. And you got to think, man, at this time, I'm 25 at this point. In my career, there's guys, B&D was like 47 years old, 46 years old at the time. There had been guys working at B&D Plumbing longer than I had actually been alive. And they brought me into the office to now manage these guys.
Well, yeah, they're too old to do
right.
anything.
I mean, and they totally understood that. But, what was cool about it is I had worked alongside all of them already.
Yeah.
So they knew I was willing to do whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I got a little bit of kickback, but, it was all about respect. I like to lead with respect. I like to lead how I like to be led. I like to be held accountable. I like to be told when I'm doing something wrong and offered solutions to fix it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so that's how I try to lead.
I was kind of in a similar boat. I was running commercial projects when I was 25. And I had guys under me that were 50, and my whole thought at that point was like, I gotta show these guys that I know my stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I was like on it.
Yeah.
You didn't come to my job. I had schematics with measurements. You didn't lack anything.
Right.
And people were impressed.
Yeah.
And
I don't want you to have to lay these walls
Yeah.
out. I'm going to tell you, you hook from that form board or that string line right there, and you pull 127 1/4 inches and you're there. Yeah.
Yep.
Take all the guesswork out of it.
I started going as far as making guys isometric drawings with actual pipe cut measurements.
Yeah.
To where they could go cut all the pieces.
Well, you can
and
totally
then come
do
and
that
install
because
them.
you prefab in a shop all the time.
Yeah.
Especially on apartment jobs.
Yep.
You can prefab every bathroom
Yep.
and send it out there on a big flatbed trailer.
Yep.
And we did that.
The only reason I did that though was because I was so young and these guys were so old, and I was like, man, I gotta show them I know what I'm talking about. And so, yeah, it worked. It was nice. Yeah.
I mean, whatever you got to do to get that respect, and
Yep.
luckily I had the time to work in the field for a couple of years at B&D Plumbing alongside most of them. And it's funny because I was actually talking to one of the old technicians. He no longer works there at B&D. He started his own business called DeVille Plumbing. And he was one of the ones that was at B&D for 15, 20 years whenever I got that position. And I don't know if he felt like he deserved it or not. He didn't say or acted salty in any type of way. But he was laughing at me because he had called me after he started seeing some of the stuff on social media lately. And he actually wants me to come talk to him and some of his guys over there one morning in Baton Rouge. And I was like, dude, I'll totally do that,
Cool.
And he was telling me, he said, man, I remember the first time you got up there to do the safety meetings because Jimmy made me do all the safety meetings once a month. So I'd have a group full of 25 service plumbers and then another group full of 25, 30 new construction plumbers. And I'd have to do them at different times and because the room wasn't big enough. And man, that was like super nerve-wracking for me. I hated it, dude. I hated it. I was so nervous. I would fumble my words. If I didn't go in there with a full outline of exactly what I wanted to say, I didn't feel like I was going to get my message across. And it was a huge learning curve for me. And but that's when I started getting comfortable being uncomfortable. And I could see that Jimmy was pushing me into those positions. You know what I mean?
That's cool.
And then so while at B&D Plumbing, after I got into estimating and project management, I was always, I would handle things as they came up. You know what I mean? I didn't let anything just sit there. If there was something to do to prep for a job or a job that was bidden and it wasn't for 2 weeks from now, I was still going to get it done as fast as I could. You know what I mean? That way I could think about it. And other things are going to come up that I'm going to have to handle between now and then, And so I started having a little bit extra free time around there. And Jimmy started pushing me into getting involved with extracurricular stuff. And so we got into the PHCC. You familiar with the PHCC?
Yeah.
So anybody that's not, that's the Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling Contractors.
Well, there you go. I was
Plumbing,
just going to
Heating, and
ask
Cooling
you,
Contractors.
what does that stand for? Now we know.
And so basically what they are is the representation for the industry for the non-union shops. And so they give you all kind of different resources from training, apprenticeships, onboardings. But the biggest thing that they do is they represent you at the Capitol, which is very important. I urge everybody to get involved with their industry, especially, if you have time to try to better the industry. It's your bread and butter.
Yeah.
You need to get involved. So I got involved with the PHCC and just started going to the board meetings as a guest.
Yeah.
And, they were a great group too. That board on the PHCC of Louisiana, they were a great group. And so they wanted me to chime in anytime I wanted to as a guest, And so eventually, after chiming in enough and doing enough things with them, they made a spot on the board for me, basically.
Cool.
Yep. And so that spot was representing everybody under the age of 40. And I don't want to put an age on anything, but that's what I was doing.
How old are you now?
So right now I'm 36.
36.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So I was basically the voice for the younger generation in the industry. Whether you were a business owner, a master plumber, journeyman, apprentice, helper, interested in getting in the trade, a vendor, you sold supplies, I was your guy to come talk to if you wanted whatever your opinion, your complaint, your recommendation heard at that board meeting. I was your guy to come to. Okay.
How old are you at this point?
So at this point, this was around 2015, 16. So I was probably 27.
27?
27. Yep. I was
Cool.
born in 88. So
This is all volunteer?
yeah, I didn't get paid for the PHCC.
See, I would never would have done that.
Yeah. Well,
So kudos.
it did take a lot of after hours stuff, but the board meetings were during the day. So thanks for Jimmy for letting me leave from B&D and go down there to be a part of that. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
So that was my job on the board. Now my goal on the board was to get the apprenticeships taught in high schools and community college, because man, there's so many politics once you start getting involved with these things. And for whatever reason, there was only a couple apprenticeship programs in the state, and you had to be an indentured apprentice for 4 years in order to be able to take your license, your test for your license. And so you got HVAC on a 2-year certification, electrical on a 2-year certification, and we got this super hard, inconvenient apprenticeship that's double the time of HVAC and electrical. And that's okay. It is what it is. But if you look at how many people's retiring out of the industry versus coming in, and you can look back at the PHCC's Facebook page and see me saying this in front of the Louisiana State Plumbing Board, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see we're heading straight towards the ground. The nose of this plane is headed straight to the ground.
Yep.
For every 4 to 5 people leaving, we got one coming in.
Yep.
The pass-fail rate of the apprenticeship program was 50%, and then the pass-fail rate of the actual test for the license, 80% of the people failed their first time.
Yep.
So it's like, dude, the numbers are against us here. What are we doing? And so we worked with the Louisiana Workforce Commission, the State Plumbing Board. It all had to be approved through all of them. And we started getting it introduced in community colleges and high schools. And the cool thing about PHCC is they have a full apprenticeship curriculum that was already approved by all the people that the Workforce Commission required it to be approved through.
Cool.
And so it was a pretty easy shoe-in. It was mostly just finding the resources and enough people to get in the classes to be able to sustain having a course, at the community colleges. So that's where, whenever I moved away from Baton Rouge in 2019, that's where we were. We were just starting to get it to where it was accepted in the high schools and community college. So I had to leave from the board because I had my first child, and me and my wife wanted to move back to Mississippi.
Yeah.
Because we wanted to be back closer to family.
So
And,
did it ever get?
It did. So the board kept up the freaking work, man.
Cool.
They kept driving. And they've got it in different trade schools up there all across the state. And so,
Did they ever get the apprenticeship shortened?
yes. That's
Cool.
They created a tradesman license. And then so you could then get your tradesman license after 2 years, and you could only go into 1 and 2 family dwellings and basic residential homes. So you couldn't go out there and be the lead guy on an apartment job or a Walmart or, a big job like that. You had to just 1 and 2 family dwellings. So basically a duplex or smaller, and single family dwellings, just your basic home.
So I'm going to interrupt your story, but I'm kind of at a toss up between should we be licensed or unlicensed. So in Alaska, it's very similar. It's a 5-year apprenticeship.
Wow.
For plumbers. 0 apprenticeship for HVAC.
Wow.
None. Nothing. Anybody could do HVAC.
So you could just get a little certification. Do y'all have like a certification
No.
that's like 6 months or anything?
You need nothing.
So anybody can go out there and
to start a business, you need to go take a test and get an HVAC contracting license. But to actually work as an HVAC employee, nothing, which blows my mind.
Yes.
And then plumbing, it's a 5-year apprenticeship, and so what ended up happening is like you have all these guys out there doing like heating and air conditioning, getting paid pennies on the dollar, and we have tons of heating companies and like a handful of plumbing companies.
Yeah.
And the plumbers make all the money because they're so rare, because the apprenticeship is freaking hard.
Yep.
Nobody passes the test. And I'm on the fence because up there, plumbers make really good money because they're so rare.
Yep.
So we have to pay them well. But there's also a major shortage of plumbers. And so you get people doing the plumbing that aren't licensed. Down here in Florida, you don't need a license for plumbing, which blows my mind.
Just one to run the business?
Just one to run the business, yep. And so plumbers down here make like $25 an hour.
Yep.
Which I don't know how anybody lives on, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know what you pay your guys over there, but probably
Way
similar.
more than that.
Yeah. With commission.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm sure guys are down here making more than that on commission, but man, I talk to guys here and I'm like, I don't know how people live.
To me, that all falls back to the business owner. I mean, honestly, because the business owner's making the choice to be priced at a place to where he can only offer the norm.
Oh yeah,
he can change that at any time.
Oh yeah, and I think that's part of why I keep doing the wealthy plumber stuff is because I think that's how we change the world.
Yeah,
is we get more business owners paying people what they're actually worth. Yeah.
I meet with plumbers all the time on the coast.
Yeah.
Like whenever I see a new plumber pop up, a new yard sign pop up, like I'm getting them on the phone.
Did you see
I want
that?
to have lunch with them.
Yeah. Did you see that Tom Howard video about we don't have a shortage of tradespeople. We have a pay problem.
Yeah.
We just don't pay our guys enough.
Agree.
And so it's not attractive enough to come work, plumbers playing in poop, digging ditches. Yep. It's not the funnest thing in the world.
Nope.
And if it only pays $15, $20 an hour and you can go get a job doing my daughter, and I've said this a million times on this podcast, but she would literally works at a smoothie bowl place making more than I made as a journeyman plumber.
I believe it.
Yeah.
They got it figured out.
I would much rather sit on the beach and make smoothie bowls for a living.
Any day of the week.
Yeah. Now, she didn't get the benefits that I had, but the fact that you could go make smoothie bowls in Florida and make more than a plumber in Alaska is ridiculous. She was making way more than plumbers here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. And so, back to like kind of being on the fence about the licensing.
Yeah.
It's cool because my opinion on that, I worked in Louisiana and I fought the whole licensing fight.
Yeah.
And too much of anything is a bad thing. So over-regulation is a bad thing.
Yeah.
And that's what I see. You start going in there and you make all these rules about licensing, and then you got problems that come up and new scenarios that come up that you didn't think about. And so now you stack another rule on top of that rule.
Yep.
And then it just becomes way too complicated.
Yeah.
This guy can have a license to do this, but he can't do that. But like, if a dude can plumb a duplex, he can plumb an apartment complex. It's the same thing. It's just stacked on top of each other or spread out over a bigger footprint. It's the same thing. You know what I mean? What he's lacking is the leadership. That's where your lack of confidence in his leadership at that point in his career. Well, that's what you need to be teaching along with in your apprenticeship is leadership.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because that's where we lack. And
plumbers in general just lack interpersonal skills.
Yeah.
Period.
For sure.
Yeah.
And that's why all the bosses suck. You know what I mean? They're all just mean. They all just have this old school way, a drive, do more. I was the same way until I joined Wealthy Plumber. I just thought, I got to do more.
Yeah.
And so coming from a state that was kind of over-regulated, in my opinion, to now a state that's very under-regulated.
Yeah.
It's got its pros and its cons, man.
Yeah.
It's way easier to find guys, because they don't have to go through this 4-year apprenticeship and carry this license and do continuing education every year. I mean,
and so what do you need in Mississippi?
Nothing. They just got to tell me they know how to plumb.
Yeah.
And I just have to I don't even have to have a license to run the business.
Oh, that's wild.
Yes.
That's crazy.
As long as I'm not doing a job contract amount over $10,000 or the city requires a permit for some kind of repair job that I'm doing, like some counties require a permit for a new sewer line install. Some counties don't. You know what I mean? Yep. So if I just stayed in those few counties and never pulled a permit, I could run a $100 million service operation with not a license one.
See, I think it's
wild.
Well, I'm a fan of that now.
I mean,
I really am. And people who aren't would probably say that, like, what about the poor homeowner who hires the contractor that comes in and just installs a bunch of garbage work?
Right.
That sucks.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he was probably the cheapest, and you probably should have done your due diligence and said, hey, I'm going to pay a little more to get this done well.
Yep.
And in my mind, when there's no regulation, it makes it easier for the winners to win.
Yeah, I can see that.
And when there's more regulation, it makes you end up having a labor shortage problem. Yeah. So you have to pay more for your guys to get them to come work for you, provide them with more training, which means you have to charge the customer astronomically more.
Absolutely.
And the customers end up losing out.
Yep.
And it's harder to grow a business where you actually can go provide a good service to the customer. So everybody loses out in my mind.
I agree.
I see that in Alaska. Like, our plumbers base wage, they cost us $180,000 a year. And so we had to be astronomically expensive. It was kind of cool because we were the only ones that were willing to do it.
Right. So you got all the best guys.
We got all the best guys, but even then we were limited at how many good guys we could get before we had to really invest in our people heavily to get them up to speed to where we needed them.
I agree.
Yeah.
And it's because, when I went to the PHCC conference last year, I was sitting at the table with Wayne LaFleur and Jimmy Lockwood, my two old bosses, because I never burned a bridge. I always left on good terms. And I was sitting at the table with them, and I said, guys, y'all are putting a lot of fight, a lot of time, a lot of resource into, fighting for this license and trying to protect it and keep it and all this stuff. And I was like, how confident are you in this license? And I never thought about this until I moved to Mississippi and now owning a business in Mississippi that doesn't require licensing.
Yeah.
I asked them, I said, how confident are you in that license? And they said, oh, we're very confident. It makes you, guys worked 4 years minimum and they know what they're doing. I said, well, I've worked for both of y'all. And my first week with both of y'all, somebody came on the job with me or I had to ride with somebody else so you could make sure I knew what I was doing.
Yep.
So I'm asking you again, how confident are you in this license?
That's a good point.
And it was kind of an eye opener for them, They kind of was like, and I was and I told them, I said, to me, but these guys are in the new construction game, so that's a totally different business model. Yep. You know what I mean? But being in service, I was like, dude, I like the fact that all my guys don't have to be licensed. I take pride in the fact of having a state license and one in Louisiana and one in Alabama also.
Yeah.
But it's not a requirement. And so it's just something that I have as extra protection for the customer,
I like that you can, it's one reason I got into pressure washing was that now I can hire guys based on character and culture fit, and I can teach them the skills.
Yep.
And I remember when, I was a second-year apprentice, I would have been your best technician.
Mm-hmm.
The skill of plumbing was not hard,
right?
Yep. It was not difficult. You can teach that.
Oh,
it's
for
teachable.
Sure.
Yeah,
especially whenever it comes to service.
Oh yeah,
because now you're not even reading these sets of blueprints that's this big around. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I can remember walking across jobs with sets of blueprints thrown over my shoulder like that.
Yep.
Massive.
Yep.
And service work is just so much more scalable, trainable, teachable, and like you said, man, that's a great point. You can hire good guys, and I say this to my people all the time, and people that I sit in interviews with. I'm like, you have to be a good person first.
Yep.
And then just happen to know a little bit about plumbing. But I can teach the plumbing, but I can't teach you to be a good person with morals. Like High Tide Plumbing is probably the hardest plumbing company on the Mississippi Gulf Coast to get a job at.
Yeah.
I'm the easiest to get a conversation with because I'm super available and I love talking to people. But just because we talk doesn't mean you're getting an opportunity. Like, dude, you got to check off quite a few boxes.
Yeah.
Because I take my image and our brand and our reputation very seriously, and I can't afford a black eye of somebody going out and doing something stupid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've had every single one of my technicians at my house with no one there and with my wife and daughter there. And I knew my property and my family was safer in their presence than if they weren't there.
Yep.
I'm not saying that they would have somebody came to break in, they're going to go fight for my wife or anything, but I at least know they're going to run and call 911 and call me and be like, dude, you got something going on over here you might want to come check into,
Yeah.
But they're just good guys,
Uh-huh.
And so that is a great point. You can hire good people and then teach the trade side.
Yeah.
As long as they know enough now to build off of,
Yep.
we'll give them an opportunity, but you got to be a great guy.
Yep.
So I like a little bit of licensing. It's cool. But I don't like a lot of licensing. I'm not a fan of it because I see it chokes you out. It just chokes the industry out.
Yes, I agree. I would agree.
But then you don't really have much representation. You kind of get at the Capitol, so people kind of make decisions for your industry for you.
Yep.
But there's always going to be rules and regulations. Everybody has to abide by them. Yep. So you're all always going to be in the same boat. Just figure out how to do it better than the next guy.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep. I agree. If anybody's going to bring this trade up, it's going to be the trades.
That's right.
It's going to be the guys out in the field
Talking
choosing
to each other. Yep.
to create a more professional trade.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yep.
And so leaving B&D Plumbing in 2018, December of 2018 was when I left B&D Plumbing.
So how long did you work there?
I worked there from March of 2012 to December of 18. So 6 years.
Cool.
7 years almost.
Yep.
And I wanted to move back home to Mississippi, like I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Just had our first kid. 2016, me and my wife just built our forever home. You know, it was a fully built, nice custom house on a little chunk of land over there. And we were never going to leave from that home. We were going to be there forever.
Yep.
And then she got pregnant, very planned. But man, it just changed our mindset. We were like, we want to be closer to family now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Dude, kids without family is hard.
It is.
Yeah.
It takes a village to
Yep.
raise them.
Yep.
It really does. And so I was like, all right, now how am I got this big mortgage here in Louisiana? And I was kind of in a situation here because I'm like, how am I going to sell this house and buy another one? It's like I got to close on this house and close on one in Mississippi in the same day.
Yep.
So I have no in between. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So me and my family don't have to sleep in the car for a few weeks until we can close on the house we're buying. And so I'm like, you know, moving back home to mom and dad's was like not an option for me. I'm not going to do that. And so I'm like, not even temporary, you know? And so I'm like, how am I going to do this, man? So I got on the phone with my banker at the time because I've always just had a good relationship with the guy I bank with. And he figured out some loan where we could get over there and pay interest only. So I like got a second mortgage for a place in Mississippi and only had to pay the interest for 12 months while I had to roll the dice and hope this house was going to sell, you know, before I had to refinance that one. And we just took a risk. But in the meantime, I had to do all that and get approved with my bank to do all that before I left B&D Plumbing because I had a history of working there.
Yeah.
So I had to line all that up before December of 2018 when I left there, and then come up with a game plan to now move forward without B&D Plumbing after I closed and got these loans closed.
Yep.
And so now January 1 of 2019, I'm like jobless and I had to figure out what to do. Okay. I wasn't really jobless. I had a plan. Back up to that November, I had gotten a call from a company called Facilities Maintenance Management, and Stephen Davis is the CEO, or was a CEO. He just handed that spot down. Now I think he's just the founder of FMM. And I don't say that lightly, not just the founder. FMM's several $1 million a year maintenance company over there.
Cool.
And I still talk to Stephen Davis, not as often as I would like, but I still keep in touch with him. I just talked to him last week. I'm going to try to go have lunch with him next week.
Cool.
And super down-to-earth guy. You know, he's young, just hungry, got a lot of drive. And so his headhunter, his recruiter, reached out to me, and she asked me if I'd be interested in coming working for their plumbing department. Mm-hmm. And I was like, nah, not really. I knew who their manager was over there, and I said, well, who would the interview be with? And she told me, and I was like, nah, I'm not interested in that. And I said, if I can get an interview with Steven, I'd be happy to talk to him. And she was like, okay, I'll see what I can do. And I was like, all right. Well, she called me back like 20 minutes later and with the date and time. She was like, can you make that happen? I said, absolutely. And so I went down there and I met with Steven, and he had the COO, Ray Mitchell, in there also, and super down-to-earth, chill guys. You know, we just kind of talked like we were now. We didn't even really talk about work or anything. And he asked me what my vision was and what I wanted to do. And I was like, well, dude, honestly, look, I'm trying to come up with a game plan to move back to Mississippi. And he was like, I can remember him saying, he's like, man, I just got chills. And I was like, what you mean? And he was like, it's funny how things work out because I actually just bought a maintenance company in Mississippi. And it has a shop and everything already over there. Let's start a plumbing department. And I was like, right on, let's do it, you know? And so that's kind of where the idea came from. And a couple meetings later, you know, we talked about salary and all this, and he was going to offer me a very generous salary to go over there and start this plumbing division over there. And that was my way, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Now I had my way to get over there, to move to Mississippi. I had a home for my family to land in.
Yep.
I had a plan to hit the ground running whenever I got there to start making money.
Yep.
And so I had it figured out. You know what I mean? That was tough to do. And it's hard to navigate that.
Well, what's cool about that is like that very closely aligns with anything I've ever done in my life where I just start to get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
And somehow, and like my general manager in Alaska, Eddie Barkhurst, he's like, man, how does everything just always seem to work out? I'm like, I don't know. It always does, man.
Keep making moves.
Every time I make a move, yeah, there's some stumbling blocks and roadblocks, but man, we always figure it out. Always, the stars always somehow end up aligning.
I say this all the time, and I'm a firm believer in it, Jared. The plan's already written. We're just living it out.
Yeah, that could be a really long conversation, but
Yeah.
I agree to you to an extent.
Yeah.
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 But, so now I had my way to get over here. And once I got to Mississippi, we started with the plumbing department. And my goal was to just do $1 million at a certain gross profit margin. Okay. Didn't matter what kind of work we did, just go out there and get me $1 million worth of plumbing revenue.
He didn't care at all.
He didn't care.
Right on.
Man, he just gave me full reins. Super generous guy. You know, very trusting, almost to a fault. And
that's probably what got him to where he is. To be honest, though. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of the same way. I don't give up on people easy.
Yeah.
And so after being over there for about a year and a half, our visions were kind of different. He wanted to start aligning with more of a certain type of work, and which was, large multifamily, do some more traveling, big revenue jobs. And I really just wanted to get into service work and just a little small service, new construction business, That's the kind of work I wanted to do. That's what I was comfortable with. And so it just didn't work out. Our visions didn't align, and that's okay. We were both very honest with each other about it the whole time, and we left on okay terms, but it came back around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we stayed in touch, and we talked it through, and he understood where I come from, and I totally understood where he come from. And I learned a lot over there. The biggest thing I took away from over there was markup versus margin, the difference between the two. And if you don't know that, you really should.
Yeah.
It's like step one.
Dude, I made that mistake for years.
Me too. I totally did too.
Years. Yeah.
Whenever their financial coach was in a meeting with us and he told me how to reverse engineer something, I was like,
yeah,
mind blowing.
Yep.
So much money that I forgot to charge.
I didn't listen enough in high school, so I had no idea.
They didn't even teach that in my high school.
Well, I couldn't even they probably didn't teach that in my high school, but man.
The furthest I went in math, though, I loved math, but I hated school, but I loved math, so I only went to algebra 2 maybe. I didn't do no trigonometry and none of that.
Yeah.
I love math.
I do too. And I barely graduated.
But I like the math that I want to do, not that somebody's making me
math
do.
that has an outcome that helps you out. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. And so me and FMM split ways, and so at that point, this is 2021 now. We're like August of 2021 at this point. And I'm looking around at these other companies on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and I'm just like, not knocking any of them by any means, but I just see a lot of the same thing that I just left from Louisiana.
Yep.
A bunch of ceilings is what I see.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm like standing on top of those roofs already. I feel like, my confidence was up. I felt like I was ready. And so I was like, now's the time. And I'm going to start this business because of the lack of opportunity that I feel like is around here. And I want to create that opportunity. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I want to help my community. I want to give back to my community, but I want to have a killer team, and I want to give back to my guys and just offer a great opportunity. Cool. Well, I didn't know how to do that. So I just did what everybody does and what I knew to do. Go out there, bid on everything, get as much as I could, stack the schedule up as far out as I could, work in as many services calls as I could into my schedule in between these new construction and remodel projects, letting people tell me what I was going to charge, basically, just so I could get the work.
Yeah.
Man, that makes me feel secure,
Yeah.
So that's what we did. We were rocking and rolling. And so I was working by myself, and I was 1099ing a guy to come help me. And I would just pay him cash. And I had my mom helping me out because shortly after I got started, I was getting a bunch of work, working long days, and now I got invoices to come home, paper tickets to enter into QuickBooks, and email these tickets out to these project managers and landlords and all these people that couldn't be there when I was there to do the service but couldn't pay me, at the time of the service. So I had to do all this extra work, go home, enter it in QuickBooks, email it out, now hope to get paid on it, and usually I was having to try to collect that money too. And it was just this long list of just chores.
Dude, I remember sending out email invoices, and I was super cheap, and I was worried about what they were going to think about the price.
Yeah.
And then I wouldn't get paid, and then I'd be scared to reach out to them to get paid.
Yep.
Just absolutely stupid.
Yep, it's crazy.
Like I should have been hassling those people to get paid.
Oh, yeah, because you were doing them a huge favor.
And I'd go like 9 months sometimes without getting paid.
Yep.
And then wonder why I don't make any money.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so, I was doing that. So I had convinced my mom to now help me out because my mom was a financial auditor for a college at this time. And she loves numbers too. That's just what she likes to do. And she likes to develop and build things, their creative side, And so I got her to actually work for free for me for like 6 months. And she would enter in all my invoices, send out all my invoices through QuickBooks to all those people, and taught her how to start taking off plans on these new construction. When people would send me a set of plans, she'd print them out and start counting fixtures for me and plugging in values. And all I'd have to do was just review the quote that she typed up and review her takeoff and say yay or nay. You know what I mean? So she was doing a great job, you know what I mean? Especially for free.
Yeah.
Can't argue about the job she's doing. And so thanks, Mom, for that. But she was in it to win it for me. She knew I had some determination and a bigger picture and a bigger goal here. So she was just following the lead. And so she did that for like 6 months for free for me. And then I was making decent money, I was putting some money away, and I should have been, right? I was paying somebody way too cheap and somebody else nothing to help me make this work. So I convinced her to quit her job and come work for me. Then I convinced the guy, hey man, quit working part-time for me, 1099, because he had his own little company too, plumbing. And I said, just come work for me, come work with me. It'd be a lot easier. And so I convinced him to come work with me. So now I hired 2 people. And I didn't know how to read a P&L. I didn't know a lot about numbers as far as business numbers. I was good at math, but just crappy at numbers and cash. And so they worked with me for about 6-8 months, and then I bought another van. And it was time for me to let this other guy split off. So I bought another van, hired a helper to go in the van with him. And we were both out doing jobs and running calls and just hustling, man. You know what I mean? But I was having to land every job. And I was having to bid on every job. I'd have to sell every job because he didn't know what was in here. He didn't know what I expected out of him because everything was in my head.
Yep.
And so after about a year of doing this, with a plumber, a helper, and a secretary or office admin, whatever you want to call her at the time, I started losing money, man. I was like, I'm bleeding. I don't know where I'm bleeding from, but I'm not making any money. I'm working even harder because I'm still having to do all the work because I have no processes in place. It's all in my head. Now I got 3 people that I'm having to tell everything to do. Oh my God, it just seemed way easier just to do it myself.
You probably didn't even fully understand what processes and systems
I didn't know what I didn't know.
Yeah.
And that's such a huge part
like if
of
somebody
the
would have
equation.
said, you need processes and systems, you'd be like, okay.
Yeah. I'd be like,
what the hell is that?
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
And so I just knew that I needed these people to step it up because we were sinking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I started pushing the plumber and the helper even harder. You know what I mean? Man, we got to do more. You got to hurry up out there on that job. What do you mean you're going to be 30 more minutes out there, dude? I thought you told me 30 minutes ago, 15 minutes, and you were out, and we got 6 more calls to do today. Or, we still got to go over there to that stack out and start drilling them holes, because we told them we'd be there. So we at least got to make a showing, and I'm just chasing my tail, throwing money out of the window just to make everybody else happy momentarily.
Yep.
Because then whenever they realized that I showed up, I could say, yeah, I was here. I showed up yesterday. I started drilling them holes and we got started. And then when that contractor went out there the next morning, he'd be like, man, I thought you were here yesterday. You just came over here in 30 minutes, you know, and now he's mad again. And so it's just constant fires and just constant just trying to make people happy. And the lack of planning on superintendent's part. Now you got to go out there for something last minute. Man, we're pouring the driveway. I need clean out covers. Okay, well, when's the concrete coming? Like, the truck's backing in now.
Yeah.
Like, dude.
I'm ready for rough in, and then you get there and the bathroom's not framed out.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, it just costs you money. And there's so many things that cost you money that you don't have any control of.
Yeah.
You know, that sucks, man.
It does.
And so I quickly realized, like, man, service was where I needed to be. And I just didn't know how to get there. You know what I mean? So I just pushed my guys more, push them more. And so July of 24, I guess it would have been July 24. This was almost 1 year after. No, July 20.
I have a hard time
with
imagining
years.
you pushing your guys.
Oh, dude. I bet you do.
I have a hard time picturing you like.
My mindset has totally changed. But
has it? That's
dude,
cool.
Look, I'm the hardest on myself, so I'm always way harder on myself than I am on anyone else. But like when I enjoy working, you know what I mean? Like fun for me is working around the house or, you know, I don't like just sitting around watching movies. I couldn't even tell you the last movie that I actually watched all the way through. It's just boring to me, man. I'll fall asleep or I got to get up and go do something. And so I was driving my guys, man, driving. We got to do more. We're working late hours. And so my plumber came to me one day out of the blue, and I had about a month and a half, 2 months worth of work on the books. And he was like, you know, dude, I like you. You're a great guy, but I'm burnt. I am done. Like, you might want to start looking for someone else.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I'm like, well, you can go ahead and leave today. And so I let him go right there. And then I looked at his helper, and well, he told me this over the phone, you know. And so him and his helper were sitting in the parking lot where they met every morning because the plumber drove a van home. And he met the helper at this little parking lot over there by his house and picked him up. And so he called me at the end of the day, and that's when he told me you might want to start looking for somebody else. Well, I told him, well, you can just tell River, go ahead and drive you down to your house, and you can clean that van out, and then he can bring the van back and park it in that parking lot, and me and my wife will come pick it up later. And you can go ahead and do whatever you want to do starting right now. And he was like, all right, you know, what choice did he have, honestly? Yeah. And, man, I was mad. I was really mad. I was like, you know, we had a plan. He was supposed to be in this with me to win it, and we had to, you know, we were going to take over and dominate the plumbing industry here in South Mississippi, and he bailed on me. You know what I mean? And I was pissed. I really was. And so then I called the helper, and I'm like, all right, River, your niece isn't with us anymore. As you obviously know, you just dropped him off at his house. I said, so the game plan for tomorrow morning is you're going to have to come to my house and jump in the van with me. And, you know, River lived in Goshen, Mississippi, and I live north of Long Beach. So I know you don't know exactly, but that's about a 45-minute stretch.
Gotcha.
River was getting paid $16 an hour. And so I told him, I said, look, dude, you're going to have to start coming to my house every morning, jumping in the van with me, because I'm not driving all the way to the other side of the Gulf Coast to come pick you up every morning. It's just not happening. And I said, but I understand fully if you don't feel like the money's worth it, you know, because of the extra gas and travel, you know, that you're going to have to start doing. And so he said, well, let me call you back and let you know. So he called me back shortly thereafter that. And he's like, well, dude, it's not going to work out for me either. So I lost both people.
So now it's you.
In one afternoon, dude.
What was going through your head at that time?
I was mad.
Yeah.
You know, I really was mad. The pride in me said, I'm going to show these guys I don't need them. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I'm going to go out there and I'm going to freaking get it done.
Yeah.
You know what I got for that? Nothing.
Yeah.
I got burnt out myself. I had a sore back. I was even more stressed out, and I was still angry.
Yep.
You know? And so that's where I was, September of 23. I had just lost both guys that were working for me. Now I had a van parked at the house. I was so busy that, you know, There was no way I could go meet somebody for lunch to try to start recruiting somebody. I didn't know my numbers. I knew I was barely making it, paying one guy $25 an hour and the helper $16 an hour. I knew I was barely making it. And so how am I now going to recruit somebody at $20 to $25 an hour? I knew I needed to pay them a little less because I wasn't making quite as much money. I'm like counting pennies, dude.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So I'm like, the difference between 25 and 20 is going to make a huge difference on my P&L.
Yep.
I was looking in the wrong places because I didn't know what I didn't know, right?
Yeah.
And so now I'm trying to recruit somebody for $20 an hour, and that was unsuccessful. So I finally hired me a helper to come help me. And that took a little bit of strain off me. You know, I didn't have to run back and forth a million times throughout the day to get my tools.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I still got the same amount of work done as I did by myself versus having a helper.
Yep.
Which is something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
So, you know, I was burnt out, didn't have time to hire anybody, hired a helper. He wasn't really helping me. It was just costing me money, but I didn't even realize that. And that's when I was like, you know, this sucks. You know, I got to either figure out what to do to move forward successfully, or I'm just going to work back for one of these other companies. You know, at this time I had another pretty decent sized plumbing contractor in town right there in Gulfport. Me and him were keeping in touch, and we still do. And he kept telling me, man, why don't you just come start a service department over here? Be a lot easier. I got the money. I got the capital. I got the resources. We got the people, you know?
Yep.
And I was like, no, dude, I like to fight. You know what I mean? I'm not giving up yet. I'm not giving up. And so I didn't, you know what I mean? Yep. And about that time is when I started seeing you. And I was still mad.
All over my beautiful face, all over social media.
Face right there. That's right. And so, you know, this is whenever I seen your face, and I was like, another one of these guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't know, man, but something made me click on that little ad. You know what I mean? And so we had our conversations, and I signed up, and, you know, it was. And
you talked with one of our sales guys, Benton. Yeah. Yep. Back when we had a sales team. Yeah.
Yep. Talk to Benton.
That's so funny.
Are you cool with me saying how much it cost?
You can say whatever you want. There are no off limits on this podcast.
So at the time, your course was $10,000 and it had to be paid in full up front. I had $12,000 in my bank account and I had $7,000 cash in my safe. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, man, I got 19 grand to my name. This cost 10 grand. I'd never invested in coaching before. I'd never invested in anything like that before. And so I was like, man, I don't know what made me do it, honestly. I don't know what made me finally say, let's do it. You know what I mean? I think it was Benton saying, I don't remember exactly what made me decide to pull the trigger, but something just told me that this was the right move to make. You know what I mean? And I felt right about it. And I went and put money in the bank from my cash safe. I went and deposited some of that money so I didn't drain my account. And I wrote you a check for 10 grand. And I remember our first conversation, the first eye opener that you said to me was, why do you think those guys left?
Yep.
And I said, they couldn't keep up. You know, they can't work as hard as me. Didn't know as much, couldn't do this, couldn't do that.
Yep.
And I mean, you got to talking more and more, and he's like, well, do you even like the position that you're in? And I was like, not really.
No, it sucks.
It sucks, dude.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, well, what makes you think your employees are going to feel any better?
Yep.
And so it was like, you told me my company sucked to work for in a way that you made me say it and had that self-realization.
Yep.
And so thank you for that.
I was a lot better at that back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now I just tell people.
That's what they need to hear, dude.
You freaking suck.
That's what they need to hear. And I wish you would have told me just like that.
Yeah.
Maybe it wouldn't have resonated as good.
Maybe not. I'm getting better at being more upfront with people. It's weird coaching people because usually, like, if I get a guy come in and I get to talk to him one-on-one, there's so many problems and they're blatantly obvious to me. And it's like, okay, which one is going to give this guy the best bang for his buck?
Yep.
And what problem can he solve what can I actually get through to him on that he's actually going to go solve? Because if we can get one problem solved, just one, and give this guy a little bit of relief, it's going to build so much more trust that the rest of what I tell him is going to be good stuff.
Yep.
But it gets tough.
It does.
Yeah.
Lots of challenges.
But I'm glad that you heard it. And
yeah, so that one resonated with me, and I was like, it does suck. I hate the position that I'm in.
yeah.
I hate the fact that my mom has to come to my house and work out of the back room as an office every day.
Yep.
I hate the fact that I have no time to recruit anyone. I hate the fact that I can't afford the lifestyle that I want. I hate the fact that I can't provide the opportunity to people that, I ultimately set out to do originally. And, I just needed to figure that out. So, once I joined the class, we figured out a lot of things that I was doing wrong. Continue to find out things that I'm doing wrong.
Yeah.
And man, we recognize it and we pivot. You know what I mean?
Yep.
We don't sit there and dwell on it. We don't let it happen for months on end. We recognize it, we make a change, and we move.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the culture that I've instilled with my people also is, we got to be adaptable, man.
Yeah.
What works today, even if it works today and it's the 100% best move and decision to make today, it may not be the same thing, the best thing to do 6 months from now.
Yep.
So it may not, this is more like a guess and a trial and error thing.
Yep.
And sometimes I may be wrong and we're going to adapt to that, but sometimes it just may be what's perceived by the people or people take to, or what actually works now, or what avenue marketing channels work today may not work the same.
Yep.
So there's a lot of things you can't do nothing about, right? That you have to adapt and pivot to. And so I always try to keep that in their mind, like, just because we're doing something today, I don't ever want you to say, oh, well, 6 months ago you told us to do it like that. Well, I know that worked back then.
That pisses me off. When people say that, I'm like, so what?
Yeah. Well, today we're doing this.
Yeah. Let's go.
Next, now that we're past that, let's move on.
So in my employee agreements now, it says on the bottom before they sign it, it says, everything that I tell you might change. If it needs to change, I'll tell you.
Yeah, that's right.
And when we say it needs to change, you change.
That's right.
And they're like, okay.
That's right.
Yep.
Because they understand that it's for their best interest.
Yeah.
For the business that they work for.
Yep.
Now, you don't have to do that. That's fine.
Right.
But you can go work somewhere else.
Exactly.
Here, we do that.
Amen.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so, man, now that's what I'm working on now. It's like, I had to stay out there in the truck and grind a little bit to make this all get started and happen and start getting momentum. But I mean, you signed up for my course and you're like, yeah, this sucks to work for. But then how did you go from, because you had 2 months of work, underbid probably, right? Probably the next realization you had was that, holy crap, no wonder I'm not making money. Now I got to work 2 more months for free. Lose money.
Yeah. So what happened? What'd you do?
I kept working.
Yeah.
So I kept going to the jobs that I already had, because a lot of them were contract jobs, little commercial projects and stuff that I had contracts on. So I had to fulfill my obligations.
Yep.
And so I did, and I finished those out. And I got my price structure right and how we were going to present that. And we were still on paper tickets at the time. And I realized, I was providing a poor service to the customers by not telling them what this is going to cost up front. And so I always had, the helicopter customers that was hovering over me, and they were hovering over me because they wanted to make sure I wasn't taking no breaks.
Yeah.
And I was giving 110% because they were paying me by the hour, right? And so now I love helicopter customers. Like, we invite them and welcome them to come sit there and talk to our technicians. We love that. Yep. And because we want to educate them, you know what I mean? And if they can fix this drain next time on their own, fantastic. Happy to be able to teach you something while we're here providing a service. You know what I mean? Yeah. But they were watching us for different reasons then, because we were charging by the hour.
Yeah.
And
what were you by the hour?
150.
150.
150.
So kind of, more than a lot of people probably. Yeah.
For that area, especially in Mississippi, everybody was about 100 to 125.
Yeah. And,
I read everyone's reviews. I actually read a review the other day from one of my competitors that got a 1-star review, and it was like, service was great and all, but 140 an hour is a little steep. And I was like, oof.
That must not have been that great.
Yeah. Okay. But, so people are always going to think that, you're charging too much.
Yeah.
And look, if you are charging premium rates, you need to provide a premium service. I'm a firm believer in that. You know what I mean? Just because you're going to charge, if you're going to charge more, you got to bring your A game. You know what I mean?
I agree.
And top service.
there's plumbers who charge less and they don't bring their A game, and then there's plumbers who charge less and they try to bring their A game, but they literally can't. Because they don't have the money to do it. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And they're rushing. You know, they get in and get out. They had the same mindset like I mentioned earlier. Dude, what are you doing? We got 6 more jobs to do. It's already 2:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
We're going to be working forever tonight. You know what I mean? And so you're rushing through those jobs and providing a terrible service to those customers.
Yeah.
You're going in there, you're giving them ultimatums for what repair they're going to buy from you today.
Yep.
You don't even tell, like, if somebody didn't ask me how much I was going to charge or charge them, like, I didn't tell them. So if you just called me over there and I'd knock on the door, you brought me straight to that toilet that was running or whatever, and buddy, I just went back to my van and got a rebuild kit and fixed it and smacked you with a bill.
Think about how crappy that is for the customer.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
Could you imagine how they felt the whole time I was sitting there working? Like, oh my God, how much is this going to cost?
But even just from the viewpoint of, if you came to my house and I had an old toilet and it was, let's say it's like an ugly bone color and it's short and it's round, not elongated, and the lid is wood and it's like bubbling and wearing out and it smells like piss, right? And I hate that toilet with a passion. And the flappers, it's running. And I'm like, finally, I'm going to get a new toilet. And so I call out High Tide Plumbing, and you roll in, replace my flapper, charge me $140 and roll out. I'm like, damn it.
Yep.
I wanted a whole new toilet.
Right.
And you could have made way more money.
Yeah.
Had you just taken the time to recognize that and sell me a new toilet.
That's right.
Yeah.
So how unfair of a service is that I would have provided to you to not give you the option to buy that?
Yeah, but super
This
crappy.
is a free country, right?
Yeah, you should have honestly pitched me to put all new toilets in, to fix my water problems, to
educate you on your water
give
quality.
me a nice new water heater.
You know, there's several things. So you ask, like, or people often ask, what do you mean you bring the top service in your A game? What does that mean? You know what I mean? Well, I could go on for days about how great our service is over most of our competitors. Like, if you can't roll that off of your tongue naturally, then you need to look at your service, you know?
Yep.
But we bring boot covers. We put down drop cloths. We show you how to take care of your home in emergency situations. If you got water coming out of your front door when you pull up from work one day, we show you what tools to use to turn your water meter off, show you where it's at, how to access it, what that sewer clean out and the benefits that provides to you. Yep. What do you do whenever you walk in your house and you smell gas at the end of the day? You know what I mean? Do you call the plumber? Do you call the fire department? Do you know how to shut the gas off? Like, there's so much stuff that people don't know about their own homes, you know? So we're there to take care of the issue that they called us out there for, but ultimately we're there to respect their home and make sure that they get long-term value out of us. You know, we offer tailored options and long-term value for our customers. Yep. That's part of our mission. And how unfair is it for you to go in there and just do like you said, just replace that flapper and then smack them with a bill? Yeah. They didn't even know that you could put a new toilet in there because you didn't offer it to them. But that's ultimately what they wanted.
And even that, they don't know what kind of toilets exist in the world.
Exactly.
They have no idea there's a toilet that can flush a pile of golf balls.
Right.
They have, like, I had a toilet in my price book for a while that was one of the Toto toilets that when you walk up to it, the seat opens up and it's got the bidet built in.
Has anybody sold one?
It's like I think it was in my price book, it was $13,000, right? And I never sold one, but I personally showed it to a few customers and they were like, whoa, that's cool.
Yeah. I've seen one of them at a convention.
And they had no idea that existed, right? But I put that in there just for price perspective.
Exactly.
So my toilet options were like, hey, I got this $13,000 toilet. Check out all this cool stuff it does. I've also got this $1,800 toilet, which everybody thought I was absolutely insane for an $1,800 toilet. Yeah. And it's literally what was that toilet? It was a American Standard Cadet 3. It's like a $280 toilet at Home Depot. You buy the whole kit. Yep. But people paid me $1,800 to put it in because it looked nicer, it flushed better, it was taller, it had an elongated bowl and a soft close lid. Yep. And those things were worth $1,800 to the customer.
Well, not to mention just that, all those things about it, that's a direct benefit just with the product itself. But I mean, somebody was there, they showed them that option, They walked them through that process. They were willing to go pick the toilet up for them.
Yep.
Then now you were able to offer a great service, leave their bathroom now smelling way better than it was when you walked in, because we put lemon scented bleach spray and wiped floors down and cabinets. Like, man, their bathroom's like, got a new toilet and it feels clean in here.
Yeah.
And this dude's going to answer the phone if I have any problems with this toilet and come back out and take care of it immediately.
Yep.
Win-win.
And you got a 5-star review, and then your competitor goes over there and rolls in stinky and nasty and replaces a flapper, probably makes a mess. Customers left with the old same toilet, and your competitor's over there wondering, like, how in the hell is Travis over at High Tide Plumbing doing so good?
Right.
And it's simple.
Just offering a great service, man. I mean, look, there's a reason why. Okay, so if you go in, you got 2 grocery stores, okay? Mm-hmm. One of them starts with a W and the other one starts with a R. One's Walmart, one's Rouse's, okay? Rouse's, it's no secret, Rouse's a little more expensive. Mm-hmm. Let's say Walmart was super cheap, but whenever you walked up to the front door, that little greeter, she said, give me that list. Wait right here. And she walked through that store and she grabbed just what was on that list and the brand that she wanted to choose for you.
Yep.
And then she came up to the front and then said, get over here, pay for this, and then you can leave.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's like the service you're providing when you go in there and do that.
Yeah.
Now, say you can go to Rouse's and you can spend 2 or 3 times more, but when you walk in the front door, that greeter says, hey, welcome to Rouse's. How you doing today? If there's anything I can help you, just please let us know. You know, with a smile on her face, you can grab your own buggy. She might even wheel one out to you. Yeah. And then you can go in there and just shop at your free will.
Yep.
It's going to be a little more expensive, but way more comfortable, way better experience. You know what I mean?
Well, so like in the Rouse's situation, imagine you go into, not the Rouse's, what was the other Walmart situation? Say you go in and Walmart only carries one brand of peanut butter.
Yeah.
One style of bag of chips. One piece of fruit, right?
Right.
They'd go out of business.
Real quick. And so you're going to have people that's going to shop there. Yes. Yep. But you're going to have a lot of people that are going to prefer to go to the more expensive place because they enjoy the experience more.
Yep.
And that's what people are willing to pay for.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so that's what we try to do in the plumbing world.
Yeah.
We try to give people a great experience, you know, background check technicians, you know, everybody, you're safe with these guys. You know what I mean? There's nothing to worry about with these guys. And that weighs heavily, you know, to a lot of our customers. They really like that.
Yep.
And they're willing to pay a little bit more for that. And how mad, going back to the Walmart and the Rouse's, and you said they only carried one brand. Say you've shopped at Walmart your entire life, and then now one day you walk into a Rouse's and you see all these other brands, you're going to like borderline be mad at Walmart for like not showing you all these things.
Yeah.
Like, there was a whole nother world and so many more options out here, and you didn't bring them in to show me that. Well, they couldn't afford to.
Yep.
That's why.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
I always use the phone analogy with my guys. I like pick 2 guys out of my crew, and I'm like, okay, so you guys both need phones, and you both go into separate Verizon stores to get a phone, and you just tell them, I need a phone that calls and texts. And one guy walks in and says that, and he's like, cool, I got a phone right here. I got this flip phone. Mm-hmm. The other guy goes in and he starts showing him what an iPhone can do and how you can download apps and you can search stuff on the internet and, you know, do a whole bunch of stuff. So he grabs an iPhone and they come back and they compare phones. And the guy with the flip phone had no idea that any of that was a possibility.
Yeah.
And if he wanted that stuff, he's going to feel like he got ripped off. Mm-hmm. Even though the guy came in and gave him what he asked for.
That's right.
At the cheapest price that he could get it for him. But yet he did a huge disservice to him.
Yep.
And then I go over with my guys. I'm like, so when the other guy walked out with an iPhone, he didn't need that thing. Mm-mm. He only needed a flip phone.
That's right.
Did Verizon rip him off?
Nope.
Absolutely not. And it's the same way for plumbing.
That's right.
You got to go in, you got to show them all the options, and you got to give them you got to let them decide how they spend their money.
Exactly.
When we go in and we just give them one option, we just fix the flapper, we're saying, hey, here's what you're going to spend your money on.
Yeah.
Just like your grocery store example.
That's right.
And that's wrong, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
You know, there's a reason why the grocery store has 50,000 items on the shelf. Your average list has 35 items on it, 40 items, I would say.
Yeah.
At least that's how it is at my house.
Yeah.
But we always walk out with 60 items every time.
Yeah.
Every single time.
You didn't
never
know
walk
you
out.
wanted that.
You didn't.
Yeah.
But you seen it and you might have been hungry. So
And you probably didn't need it, but you
No, you
wanted
definitely
it.
didn't
You
need
that. You didn't need that cinnamon roll, that
Nope.
batch of cinnamon rolls, but you wanted
or that
it.
little cup of little chicken nuggets, that you could nibble on while you was walking around getting groceries. It's like, you know what I mean? But it was right there. It was warm and it was available.
Yeah.
So you impulse buy it.
Yeah.
So you could snack on it while you're walking around.
Yep.
Does that make Walmart bad? No, it makes them smart.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah, and yet we, as a trade, as plumbers, we tend to kind of demonize the plumbing companies that are doing the same thing.
Right.
So here we are. The rare person is the business owner who runs a good plumbing business, provides a good service for their customer, and charges accordingly. And yet we're the ones in the plumbing community that are ruining the trades.
Right.
The reality is it's the other way around.
100%.
And I'll stand by that
every day.
all
I'll
day.
be right there behind you. Yep.
Yeah. That's cool. So you finish out your commercial contracts.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you go from, because right now you have 6 vans on the road?
5.
5 vans on the road, but you bought your 6th?
Yes.
Yeah. And it's wrapped?
Not yet.
Not yet. Getting there. Okay. How do you go from, because now it's just you. Yeah. You and your mom?
No, it's me and my mom's in the office, and then we have a CSR.
I mean, but like you're finishing out these, like we're going
Oh,
back.
yeah.
in time.
You're back then? Okay.
You're finishing out these commercial contracts. Do you finish them out by yourself or you got a helper?
Yeah, I got a helper like right towards the end of it.
Gotcha.
Yep. So like this was July of whenever both of the guys quit, and I joined your class in September. So I worked for a month and a half by myself, and I had hired a helper 2 weeks before I started your class.
Gotcha.
And fired him 2 weeks after I started your class.
Whoops.
Yep. That's
Right
what I told him. I told him, I said, man, it's nothing against you. We're going in a different direction, and you're not part of that picture.
So you finish up your contracts and stuff.
Yep.
And you start focusing solely on service.
Just service work.
And you don't take another contract.
I never bid on another new construction project. And I
So-
told all the contractors that I was working for, because I had a few contractors, they would just say, oh, got another one to start. Come by the house and pick up the plans. We'll be ready to roof in next Wednesday. And they knew what I charged per fixture, and we just went out there and did it. You know what I mean? And so I had to call those guys and let them know, hey, man, don't call me anymore expecting me to jump on the next job next week, because there's going to be no more.
Yeah.
We're not going to do any more new construction.
Was that scary?
That's very scary.
Okay.
Because like I asked you, you
Yeah.
know, it's like, dude, what if I lose half of my work? You
Yeah.
know? And you said, well, you're priced right now. So, good thing you're raising your prices. You'll be able to do less work and make more money.
Yeah.
And that was a hard thing to trust.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I did. I trusted it 100%, obviously. And so I never bid on any more new construction jobs. I had a bunch of commercial contractors sending me, invitations to bid. And I had to respond back to all of them, thanks, but take me off the bid list. No longer interested. And we only started doing service work. And, dude, that was tough because service was only probably 20% of my business at that time. And going back, a lot of the property managers, I had a lot of property managers I was working for at the time. I could have navigated that a little differently looking back, but man, I'm just a good, honest guy. You know what I mean? And like super simple. So I was like super honest with them, way too honest with them. And they even told me, like, one of the biggest property managers on the Gulf Coast that manages over 600 homes, they told me, dude, we love you. We love the service you provide and your communication and the work and everything, but that's not going to work around here. And we hate that for you because we hate to see it not work for you, but we're going to have to move on, and we wish you the best of luck.
How bad do you want to go back to them?
So bad. I almost
look.
So here's the thing. What's really cool about it now is I don't want to go back to them out of spite just to say, look at me. You know what I mean? Because to me, I don't feel like I made it yet. I still feel like I'm going. You know what I mean?
You'll never feel like you made it.
What I want to go back to them and tell them is, the service, I'm sorry for the service that I was providing for you. It was so terrible. And they're going to be like, well, what do you mean? I'd be like, if I could decrease the call volume coming into your call center and increase the revenue coming through your call center, would you not think that that was a positive for your business?
Yeah.
And they would, of course, say, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, how would you going to do that? Okay, well, I can start offering long-term solutions to all these rental properties instead of just slapping these Band-Aids on them. I understand these property owners don't have the money in there to just make these, replace sewer replacements. They want to do just a Band-Aid repair.
Yep.
Well, if it's that tight with money, then you don't have the money to do this little repair. You need to invest in the replacement since you don't have the money, because that's going to be the most value for you and the cheapest in the long run. And so if we can go out there and start offering solutions, long-term solutions for all these rentals, instead of just these little Band-Aid repairs, I can drive more revenue through your property management company with less call volume through your call center. Win-win, right? Now the tenant is going to be benefited because they don't constantly have to have somebody coming out here and keep doing the same thing. Because when I read their reviews, I see, oh, they keep coming out here, sending someone out here and keep fixing the same thing, and nothing ever happens. We got like over 300 5-star reviews that say exactly what their 1-star reviews are complaining about.
Yeah.
And I can show them that.
So the hard part with property management, because I own a few properties and I have them managed by a property management company, and I get frustrated by the property management company because they set a threshold of what the property manager is allowed to spend without contacting the homeowner.
Gotcha.
And I ask my property manager, I say, can you just eliminate that threshold and do what's best for the property long term?
Yeah.
And they can't. They won't. And it's probably because they've tried to do that in the past, and then somebody comes back and is like,
why'd you spend that? Yeah.
And I'm like, look, I don't care what you spend. I don't even care if this property makes money. I just don't want it to go to hell so that when I go to sell it in 10 years, it's a pile of junk and I got to put $300,000 back into it to repair it.
Exactly.
But, the majority of people that have properties getting rented, they're trying to make money off of property rentals.
Right.
And to make money off, single family homes or those kinds of things,
margins are slim.
Nickel and diamond.
Right.
Yeah, it sucks.
But all the more reason, like I said, right, to not just keep making that repair.
There's got to be property management companies out there that think that way.
There are.
Yeah.
So we actually work with a few.
Do you?
Yeah, two or three. They'll call us. Most of them are apartments, because they just need somebody that's no BS, just come out here and get it done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we don't work for that one that I just mentioned, and give an example too. I would love to go sit down with them and talk to them and try to flip their mindset on that, because, you could probably get rid of one person in your call center and increase your revenue by 15, 20%.
Yeah. I worked with one property management company pretty heavily right when I went into business. I didn't know, crap, I got to get paid for this stuff.
Right.
And when I started out, I was $140 an hour, and they were fine with that. They'd call me out. I'd go out. I'd give them an estimate. Then they'd have to go contact the homeowner and then have me back out, and then I would do the work. And
you did all that for free, right?
I did all that for free.
Me
Yeah.
too.
And then at the end of the year, wondering why I didn't make any money.
Right.
And when I started learning, like, oh, I have to charge for my time. And I have to sell enough of my time, or I actually have to be more expensive, because regardless of how much time or not I sell, I still have these expenses to cover.
Exactly.
And I didn't have hardly any expenses, and I still needed to be like more than double what I was charging currently, right? And when I started raising my rates, and everything was above their threshold.
Yeah.
I was never under their threshold. And so then it got even worse. And then the ones they did approve, it'd be like 9 months before I would get paid, because they would collect a portion of the rent, and they would have to stack that up enough to be able to write me a check. And I was like, finally, I just called them and said, you know what? You guys are going to have to call somebody else. Yeah. End of story.
Yeah.
They wouldn't pay by credit card either. They'd have to write me a check. I'd have to go pick it up, go deposit it. I mean, just tons of wasted time. Yeah.
So now, I mean, we've even went as far as, because along that same note, I got I got screwed out of quite a bit of money last year with commercial customers.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's not the homeowners that you got to watch out for, because usually they're there, you can collect. It's those property managers and the commercial accounts, man. And it's sad because as another business, you would think that they would get it. You know what I mean? But man, that's the ones that are hardest to collect from, you know? And I got screwed out of a bunch of money last year for that. And I'm still trying to collect it. And I'm going to spend just as much as they owe me to try to collect it, even if I just got to break zero. I don't want them to have it either.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'll do as much as I can to try to collect it, but not necessarily go that far. But that's the way I feel about it.
Yeah.
I can't stand that. And so now it's like we get a credit card on file. So now there's not many property management companies that we're going to be able to work with, come underneath that threshold, and then are going to give us a credit card to put on file too, because now we just got too many rules almost. But the right ones will.
Yeah.
And there are ones out there who put that credit card on file with us, and it's stored in ServiceTitan, so it's a full protected software that we don't have to worry about storing it in a filing cabinet and protecting in the office. Like, it's completely legit and safe.
And so you have said, these are the things that work for my company that we're willing to do, and these are the things that don't.
Yep.
And you can work with us or not work with us.
That's it.
I don't care.
That's it.
And you built a business that works for you instead of working for everybody else.
That's right.
And that's where most people lack.
It's rad.
Yep.
Because like right now, I mean, the phone's ringing, 2 people are answering it, 5 guys are out there running calls right now.
Yeah.
And my phone hasn't rang one time this morning.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. We still got to get to how you got to 5 trucks.
All right. So let's do it. I don't know how much time we got left. How long?
However
we been doing
long
this?
you want to go.
Okay.
We are hour and 26 minutes.
Right on. All right. So had 2 trucks whenever I joined your class. It was just me, but I had 2 vans, not trucks, vans. And I hired a plumber.
You
Fired
were
the
High
helper.
Tide Plumbing from the beginning. Yeah.
High Tide Plumbing from the beginning. Yeah.
Oh, real quick. You know how you know you're from the South?
How's that?
You say plumbing.
Yeah, I don't put the G
In
on
Alaska, we say plumbing.
there. Yeah.
It's
We don't
funny
need that G.
because now I say plumbing.
Oh, yeah? Southern's rubbing off on you.
Anyway, sorry.
So anyway, High Tide Plumbing from the very beginning. Had a silly little logo that I got designed. It was pretty cool. I thought it was cool. You know, thought it stood out.
Yeah.
Paid $300 for it.
Yeah.
So I was proud of that rascal. And so I hired a plumber in November of 23, 2 months after joining your class. And I had already gotten rid of the helper. And the plumber was out there on his van. Good plumber, great guy. He was an Army veteran, and he was a good guy, you know, and a good plumber as well. But once I started changing over to this process, I was still on paper tickets. He had to know my new hourly rate, you know, so I had to sell him on that. And then he had to start doing all the calculations on paper tickets, which was super tough, you know, man, it's just so much more benefits to have a software where they just click buttons than instead of having to figure your prices for you, because they don't see all the other back-end expenses. You know what I mean? And so he just wasn't sold on it all the way. He was doing it because this was his job at the point, you know, but he wasn't sold on it all the way. And then we got on ServiceTitan at the end of November. So like as soon as you told me, I joined your class in September, you told me we need to be on ServiceTitan. I was by myself. I signed up for ServiceTitan. And I said, I'll just pay for 2 extra licenses. But I'm a firm believer in the forward investing. I know a lot of people don't like that, but my goal here is to build a large, sustainable, strong company, not to sell out in 3 to 5 years. So I don't want to run super lean. I'm bulking. You know what I mean? Look at it like you're either bulking or you're leaning up to sell. Okay. Well, I'm bulking. And so I'm forward investing into this stuff and paying for the extra 2 licenses. And well, Danny came along. And we went live on ServiceTitan at the end of October. So I immediately signed up with them after you telling me to, did my 30-day onboarding. End of October, we went live. Danny had been with me for about 2 weeks at this point. And so now I'm having to build a price book and show him a whole new way, you know. So it was like a whole bunch of changes for him initially when he came on board. So it just wasn't for him. You know what I mean? And this process just wasn't for him. And so I had, in that time though, we were doing decent, just me and him. So I went out and bought a 3rd van. And if I can finance them 100%, I do. Some may agree with it, some may not. It's what works for me.
It's the only thing I'll finance.
Yep.
Yep.
I financed my vans and my office. That's the only things I financed in this whole growth.
Yeah.
And so I went out and bought a third van when me and Danny was rocking and rolling, and hired a second plumber to come on board with us. And so now it was 3 of us. And I was like, all right, we're getting some momentum, you know. Well, then Danny comes to me one day, man, this just ain't for me. And I'm like, another one on the chin, you know what I mean? And so this was like February, March of 24. So in January, I had purchased an office. So like we and Danny was doing good enough. And like I was paying myself just enough to live off of. And, you know, stacking money back, bought the third van, hired the second plumber to go on the third van, started another LLC as a holdings company, purchased an office, and put just what I had to down on that to get in there because I couldn't get on Google at my house.
Yep.
And so once I purchased that office, I was able to get on Google and start investing money into Google. And that's honestly what saved me because my contract jobs were dwindling away.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was known around town, but the customers that I had, the wrong customers, were starting to dwindle away.
Yeah.
And I was starting to have to get new customers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's like Google came in right at the right time. You know what I mean? And because I got the office.
Dude, you probably lucked out. Like having a physical location now that is ranking halfway decent, it's almost necessary.
Yeah.
Like to grow, because you can have a service-based location, which means you don't have a location.
Right.
And you don't rank well.
Right.
And the second you get an office and you start getting that thing ranking, you mix that with a good brand and start running some ads.
It's a game changer.
It is. Yeah.
And so, but that's what works well right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so,
well, you like, I don't know, 2 years ago, you could have been totally different.
yeah.
Like the strategy. What's funny is that the main strategy never changes. Get people to know who you are.
Yep.
It's just how
you do it.
Well, and then, you know, where you actually can buy leads from changes and how much those leads cost change. But nobody's ever lost investing in their brand.
Never.
Ever. You can't, like, nobody can take you owning some of the customer's headspace.
Right. You can't erase that.
Nope.
Once it's in there, it's there.
Yeah. Anyway.
So we got on Google, and Danny quit me. And so now it's back to me and just one other guy again.
Yeah.
And so this is whenever I started the recruiting. You know what I mean? Because now I had a little bit of extra time, not much, because now I'm back just to me and this one other plumber. So, but what was good is I always like to keep good relationships with people. And so I had been talking to this guy up to this point. And he was working for another company that was structured similar, was on Service Titan and all that. And so I actually got him into plumbing whenever I had moved to Mississippi and started the plumbing department for FMM, Facilities Maintenance Management. Yeah, I talked him into coming and working for me there.
Cool.
And whenever I left, he left and went to work for this company. Okay, so now I recruited him and talked him into coming back and working for me over here at High Tide Plumbing. And so he came over, and now we're back to 3 again. And then I just kept leaning in, man. I maxed out my budget on Google. I wasn't scared to roll the dice. I maxed out my budget on Google for LSA. It's still there, $10,000 a week. It's never that much, but if they're willing to give it to me, we're willing to do it.
Yep.
And so then what I started seeing is, well, now these leads are costing me money now. It's not just coming off of word of mouth. So now I got to figure out how to start converting on these calls so they don't cost me a bunch of money. And it's just like one thing led to another, and it's just built into what it is now. But I never took my foot off the gas. You know what I mean? Anytime I hired a plumber and filled a van, I go buy a new one. And now it's like, what do I got to do to get a butt in that van?
Amen.
And I just keep going. And so now it's like, what's cool now is I know my cost per booked call. I know my cost per acquisition. So it's like, okay, my cost per acquisition is $156.73, and I need 52 jobs a month for a technician. So 156 times 52, invest that into marketing. Okay, let's look at our ROI on our marketing. What are we getting the best return on? Okay, let's invest this extra money there.
Yep.
Wash, rinse, repeat.
Yep. It's really not that complicated, is it?
It's not.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful system. You just gotta get all the pillars lined up, man.
Yep.
And you can't lean into one and forget about the other.
Nope.
It takes a little bit of everything. It takes the marketing, it takes the branding, it takes the culture, it takes the leadership, it takes the processes, and then it takes just doing a good job at your job.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
Seems like not much, but once you get in the weeds of it, it gets.
But
as a gist, that's all it is.
It's when you don't understand the whole system, and then you start putting pieces in place, and then you have these little aha moments of, oh, I see how that works in the big picture now. And then, or you have a problem and you go, oh crap, what am I missing?
Right.
And then you figure it out and you're like, oh, I got to actually pay attention to my average ticket now.
Yep.
I got it. Oh, my close rate actually matters. Okay.
Yep.
How do we get a better close rate?
That's right.
That kind of stuff. Yep.
That's right.
Yeah.
So now we're trying to model, mimic, master, and multiply.
Yep.
You know, the 4 M's.
There you go.
Some may know about those. You got to come up with the process. You got to figure out and understand why you're doing that process.
Yep.
And then master that process. And now it's time to pass it along to someone else.
Yeah.
Just wash, rinse, repeat, man.
Yeah.
It's that easy. So now what I'm concentrating on is continuing to grow, how to get more leads. And but I'm not really investing more into PPC or Google and all that. I have such an opportunity with my brand on the Mississippi Gulf Coast to stand out and man, really just like you said, live in people's mind rent free, you know, and you can't erase that memory.
You can't.
And I'm a firm believer in that. And so I know if we do good work and we have good brand recognition, like I don't want to have to worry about if Google turns off tomorrow.
Yeah. So I think that's very wise of you because I've had Google. It didn't necessarily turn off, but it got 5 times more expensive within a couple weeks. Wow. And it was like, I kept having to raise my budget. It was a game of, it was somebody else jumped in the mix and I had taken enough of his work to where he was like,
he wanted to disrupt it.
Well, I think he was hurting, to be honest with you. And so he raised his budget on PPC. We started seeing our certain keywords getting more expensive. And so we raised our budget on those keywords. And then the next week it looked like he raised his budget. And I said, we got to beat him at this. Yeah. And eventually he dropped out and the cost went back down. But,
it's wild. We've never even touched PPC.
Yeah.
We're only LSA, only Facebook and community events. It's really all we do.
I think, if I were you, I'd look into PPC because
absolutely.
Because the thing is like with your brand, if you can educate people on who you are and get, and do a good job, right? Maybe half your calls come from other sources. Even if half your calls come from PPC, and then you start selling memberships and then you get 50% return customers so that only 25% of your calls are coming from PPC, all of a sudden you can spend 4 times more than most people can on a pay-per-click call because your brand is so strong and your repeat customers you have so many other sources bringing work in that you can outspend everybody on PPC and you'll own PPC in that way. Because of it. It's the only way to really make PPC work nowadays.
Gotcha.
You have to be able to spend $300-$400 to get a customer.
Right.
The only way you're going to do that is if your average ticket is really big and you have a really good return customer rate and you have a really solid brand.
Right.
You'll be able to spend that on PPC.
Yeah, and that's what people don't realize is, especially your average consumer, is how expensive it is to get that call booked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or how expensive it is to acquire a new customer.
Yep. And the more and more market share you take, it starts to get more and more expensive.
Yeah.
Yep.
I believe it.
Yep.
It's like whenever it cost me about $215 to get a technician to somebody's front door. And so when they try to beat us up over a $95 dispatch fee, and we're giving you a professional technician, fully insured, like to the hilt.
Yeah.
He's showing up to your house. He's going to wear boot cover. He's going to use a drop cloth. He's going to diagnose your problem. He's going to educate you on what's in your water. He's going to tell you what to do in emergency situations. He's going to give you options to fix it and so much more. Like, we're giving you a lot for $95. Way more than that cheap guy's giving you for free.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so it's like, it just seems to me like a no-brainer. I try to offer more value then it's even worse. So it makes it a hard time for them to say no, but you still get those people who don't want to pay it. But it's just, I tried to create that wash, rinse, repeat cycle. So you asked me how I got here. That's it, man. I just kept leaning in. When I got to 4 vans, that was about 3 vans. That was March of last year, a year ago.
Yep.
I had went to a bachelor party, and then on my way back through, I met you for lunch.
Yeah.
And that's when you told me you should rebrand. And I didn't ask you a bunch of questions about it. I didn't really know what a rebrand was, what it meant, what it looked like, how much it cost. And you said, just be ready. It's a little expensive, but
Yeah.
you should do it. And so I came home and I called Kick Charge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just trusted the process, man. I just, like you said earlier, I didn't second guess it. I didn't try to weigh out the options forever. You said it works, do it, and move forward.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Trust the process. And so that's when we signed up with Dan at Kick Charge. And I told him, I'm a terrible artist. I'm terrible at creating things. Like, you do your thing, man. My name's High Tide Plumbing, and that's what we got.
Yep.
Change the name if you want. And he said, no, I like the name. I think we can build off of that. And then so, it was like, got to put down a pretty decent down payment, wait 3 months. That seemed like forever.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, like, I was so excited for that first phone call. Like, man, I'm going to get to see what my van looks like. And they showed me this one, or it was like 4 different options, but it was like this one little logo.
Yep.
And I'm like, dude, I wanted to see my van. And so when can I see my van? They're like, oh, that's another 3 months. Now we got to take this logo and create the design and the theme.
Are you
and I'm
kidding
like,
me?
oh, this takes forever. But we started that in April of 24, and we got all the vans wrapped at the end of October, beginning of November of last year. And since then, man, it's like at least once a week somebody's sending us a picture of our van riding down the road.
Yeah.
Spotted another van.
Do you feel like your business has its own kind of personality now?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Isn't that cool?
Yep, for sure.
Do you enjoy the fact that you built that?
Do
you get?
I'm proud of it.
Yeah.
But what I'm more proud of is now I'm seeing my technicians hitting their goals.
Yeah.
That's what makes me even more proud, dude. Because that's why I started this. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like one of my technicians just bought his first house. Him and his wife and the 2 daughters.
That's cool.
That was a super proud moment for me. I feel like I'm prouder than he is.
Yeah.
Of his own house. You know. Another one of my guys him and his wife was sharing a minivan and the kids. You know what I mean? So me giving him a van to drive home was already like a huge help for him. But he just went out and bought him a new truck the other day. You know what I mean? So now he ain't got to share the family van. They all got separate vehicles, and it's just they're starting to hit their goals. You know what I mean? And that's what really hits home for me.
Yep, I think that's cool.
Because I know if they're hitting their personal, professional, and financial goals, then like if they're winning, we're all winning, which means I'm winning. You know what I mean?
Amen.
And me winning looks like them winning.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because I know if they're doing what they want to do and their goals and hitting their goals, then I'm hitting mine too.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And I'm hitting one of my goals right now. I mean, like I said a year ago when I joined your class, like I'm going to be on that podcast one day. I told my wife that and my mom. I said, I'm going to be on that podcast one day. I don't know what it looks like, how long it's going to be, but one day my day's coming. You know
That's
what
funny
I mean?
Because a year ago I would have said we'll never have guests on this podcast.
I've heard you say that before. I've heard you say that you've never went on somebody else's podcast as a guest.
Well, I did my first guest podcast.
Did you?
So I don't want to do like a Zoom podcast.
Right.
I think they're lame.
Yeah.
And so I always said I'll never have a guest that's not live on this podcast. And I'll probably hold true to that because I don't do very good having a conversation over Zoom.
Yeah, me neither.
I want to meet people, see them face to face, get them in a room. But the funny story, I was on. I have one guest podcast appearance. Just came out actually, probably 2 weeks ago, week ago, something like that. My neighbor ended up being, pretty. I don't want to say a big name, but he's got a podcast and he grew a big home service business here in Pensacola and Nevada and Destin, and ended up selling it. And he works for a coaching program and private equity now.
Mm-hmm.
And we ended up meeting up and hopped on a Zoom call. And then found out we were neighbors. And it was kind of funny.
Cool.
So I went over to his house and hung out with him for a little bit. And turns out he's got a podcast. And he was like, dude, you should come on my podcast. I was like, all right, sure. So first podcast ever.
Cool.
Got to do it in person, which was cool. The funny part is it was like a, 20 or 30 minute podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Dude,
Oh, yeah.
it went by so fast.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, I'm used to like 2-hour podcasts.
Yeah.
This felt really short.
Almost like I couldn't even get a message across in
I know.
20 minutes.
Like it's been almost an hour and 45 minutes. Yeah, hour and 45 minutes.
And it went by quick.
And we just heard your whole story,
Yep.
which is super cool. I think your story is rad.
Thanks.
It's very like when you say, you just pushed, took a risk, rinse and repeat. That's exactly what I did.
Yep.
I bought a van. I worked. Once I could afford another van, I bought another van.
That's right.
Once that van was sitting there, I wanted to put a butt in it.
Yep.
Once I got a butt in it, my mindset went to, how do I keep this guy busy?
That's right.
Let's increase our marketing budgets.
Yep.
And then it was like, all right, let's buy another van
Yep.
and rinse and repeat until, we had 10 vans and 9 guys at the most, and then sold it.
Yep.
Yeah.
See, that's where I want to just keep going. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's just what my vision is. I want
Yeah.
to keep
What's your vision for High Tide? At this
So
point?
I want to be in several different home services. I would like to have High Tide Home Services.
Yeah.
It's like my big mother company.
Like HVAC.
Yeah,
electrical.
HVAC, electrical, pressure washing. I mean, anything, roofing, window cleaning, doors and windows. I mean, so my steps would probably be HVAC after plumbing, then electrical, and then I think handyman service.
Ooh. I think roofing is the big one now.
Roofing is a big one, but there's a lot of people in that. I mean, that market's really saturated. There's a lot of roofers around where we're at.
Yeah.
Right there on the coast, hurricanes,
Yeah.
there's a lot of roofers on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. And you get a lot of them come in after the storm and then they don't leave. You know what I mean? And so handyman service would be good because if I could just think about it, if I got, by the time that's my 4th lateral,
Yeah.
I'll have 3 more up to that. There's going to be a lot of sheetrock repairs and a lot of painting and a lot of trim repairs just from plumbing, HVAC, and electrical.
Yep.
That I could keep 1 or 2 trucks busy just to get started, to get that department off the ground.
And so your vision is having all that where you're at.
Yep.
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 Okay.
Right there on the Mississippi Gulf Coast.
Cool. I like that.
And that's my plan for right now. Now,
You have a
6
revenue
months from
goal
now,
in
50
mind?
million.
50 million?
50 million. So you got to start with a goal to reverse engineer from there.
Yep.
So what I was just talking to my wife about on the way over here, because we were talking about that, and I said, you know what I should do? I should probably I should take the $50 million, and then I should say, I need to get on Jared's market analysis spreadsheet and figure out what I can get out of plumbing. And then basically you could divide that by the 4 laterals, the 50 million by the 4 laterals that you want.
Yep.
And then that'll tell you how big each department would have to be in order to support the 50 million. I mean, it's nothing but a math equation. It's that easy.
Then you could take your current average ticket and your current revenue per truck and say, how many trucks do I need?
Exactly.
Yep.
And you could just reverse it all the way down.
And then you could break down the costs to get there.
Yep.
And then you could say, well, right now we're making this much profit per year. We can invest 50% back in. So that means next year we should be able to grow to this.
Yep.
And then you say, okay, when we're there, we should be making this much profit. So then that means the following year we should be able to grow to this. And I would take like next year and at least the following year break it into quarters, because you'll actually be able to invest more than you think.
Right.
Because each quarter gets better and better.
Right.
Rather than waiting a whole year.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, that's how I'm doing it, man.
Yeah.
Really. And just, nothing special, no $1 million idea. You know what I mean? It's just.
I think you'll be surprised at how much you can pull out of plumbing. Have you done a market analysis plumbing?
No, I need to do one.
You'll be surprised. It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of money and there's a lot of people right there on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, man.
Like what's the population?
Oh, I would say
of your service area.
350,000.
Dude, you don't even need
just in
HVAC
Ocean
or
Springs.
electrical.
There's like 80,000 people just in Ocean Springs, and that's one city in one county.
Yeah, you don't need the other. You
just
can
do it with
literally hit it
plumbing.
with just plumbing.
I feel like, that's one of my reasons why I go talk to all these other plumbers, because I want to show them, like, dude, unless you change what you're doing right now,
Yep.
then I can literally offer you a better opportunity as an employee of this team than you're offering yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then you have none of that back end headache to deal with.
Yep.
You can just go bid the jobs and do them. You don't have to worry about, all the other crap, the taxes and paying the bills and the insurance. All you got to do is bid the work, do the work, collect the money, and go home.
Yep. The thing with, you're going to end up adding HVAC not to hit revenue goals, but to better serve your customers. That's it.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. No, I guarantee you could do that.
That's an awesome reason to have to do that. You know
It is.
what I mean?
It's like Warren Buffett, he always says, your main purpose should be to delight your customers and to keep working on delighting them even more.
Yeah.
So he gives an example of like Jeff Bezos.
Mm-hmm.
He's just solely concerned about delighting his customers. How can we get this there faster? How can we make it cheaper for them? How can we make it easier for them? And he's just kept doing that.
Yeah.
Think the craziness of Amazon. I mean, the amount of like
The logistics behind it is
they got
just
airplanes.
the shipping department. Yeah.
I mean, there's planes, there's trucks. Like it's pretty insane.
Just
right?
you pick one department of Amazon and it's just unbelievable.
All to delight the customer more,
Yep.
take more market share.
And be more
Yeah.
convenient, faster.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. And that's what, if you added HVAC at some point, it'd be like, well, we have all these customers that love our service and they don't have an HVAC company that they can call.
Mm-hmm.
We need to add HVAC so that we can delight our customers even further.
That'd be an awesome reason to have to grow.
Yeah. I think that's what you'll hit. Yeah. It'll help you get to 50 million faster.
Yeah.
But yeah, you could totally do that. Hands
That's
down.
awesome. I think so. So that's the goal here.
Cool, man.
Is
I
we're just
like
going
it.
to keep doing that, man. Keep trying to improve our service. Keep trying to improve our team and our culture and the opportunities that we can offer.
And in the meantime, you'll be helping change the world.
That's right.
Believe it or not. Yeah.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
At least the plumbing industry.
I'm a firm believer that that's how the world turns into a better place. We need more business owners to run good businesses, provide good opportunities for families, teach men how to work hard, make them women who stay home and feed their husbands' bellies proud of them.
That's right.
And we end up with a world where kids have dads and dads that they can look up to.
Yep.
And I think it's a big problem in our country right now.
100% agree.
Yeah.
100% agree.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. Appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely, man. I had a great time. And I want to thank you for everything you've done for me.
I didn't do a whole lot.
And you did.
Just some information.
Yep. You've been there for me on a lot of times when I really needed the help, and greatly appreciated.
Yeah, man. No problem.
Greatly appreciated.
All righty.
Had a great time.
Everybody watching this, have a good rest of your day. See ya.